Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to find their way into the creative industries. My name is Dan Allen. I am a director and filmmaker, and I am very excited today to be chatting with Sue Quinn. Now, Sue Quinn, it doesn't get much bigger than this in terms of locations, because Sue Quinn has worked on the Harry Potter franchise, including Fantastic Beasts, but also worked on Pirates of the Caribbean, Notting Hill, Love Actually. I would say if it's an epic British film, then she's worked on it, but also worked on American films as well. So also was it Edge of Tomorrow, which is amazing, and we're going to hear all about the difficulties of landing a helicopter in Trafalgar Square, which is a mental thing to try and do. So we're very excited. Well, I'm very excited anyway, because there's no Ellen today, sadly, but I will be carrying the torch in her absence. But yeah, I can't wait to dive into all of this. There's so much that I don't know, and I know you guys don't know. Well, you might do. I don't know. So we're looking to find out as much as we can from literally one of the leading masters of locations managing, which is Sue Quinn. So without any further ado, welcome to the podcast, Sue. How's it going?
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Excellent. We're very excited to have you. I mean, I was just saying to you before we started recording, your CV is humongous, and you've worked on some of like the coolest things. I know you've worked loads on the Harry Potter franchise as well, Legend of Tarzan, Fantastic Beasts, Watchmen as well, which is the series. And I just wondered if you could sort of start by sort of breaking down or demystifying the world of locations, because it's not a one-person job, right? There's a whole team that goes into it. So I wondered if you could explain sort of like what is your role and what are the other roles that support that role?
Okay. Well, my role has changed quite a lot over the years, because it's become very different as time has gone on.
Okay.
I mean, originally there used to be just 3 people in my department, and then we did everything. But things have changed dramatically now over the years. But usually we're one of the first people to be brought on a film, and we work quite closely with the director and the designer. And, you read a script, then you discuss with them what they think and what they are looking for. And then you then go out and you try and find the locations that they're talking about. And so you bring back lots and lots of photographs that you've taken for them to have a look at. And then all sorts of other things come into play, as the schedule, the timing, how many days we've got an actor, so it needs to be near here. So sometimes the location you start out with is not the one you end up with.
Gotcha. Is that heartbreaking sometimes when you find the most perfect location and then it just doesn't work for is it mostly the schedule in terms of it not being available, or is it often location, like they can't get the whole crew over there? Like what sort of things cause the breakdown?
Well, it's a bit of both actually, but I mean, it is heartbreaking when you find a most amazing location, but then it becomes too expensive to take a crew all that way. So then, you have to find something nearby. And I mean, that happened to us just recently. We found the most incredible location, but it was like 200 miles away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
But we had to find it nearer to the studio because of the availability of the actor.
Gotcha.
And in actual fact, at the end of the day, we found a location, and it with the art department doing their bit, it actually worked out really well. So actually I was quite happy about that.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the thing, I guess. It's just when you get to the actual filming itself, that's when you really see, okay, is it still okay? Would we actually have been better if we had that other one? And then I imagine, does that ever plague your enjoyment of some of the projects you've worked on? So, you sit down in the premiere or wherever it is and you watch a film and all you see is the location that could have been when it gets to a particular scene.
Well, you try not to think about that. You try and look at it for what it is.
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you sort of go to locations and you take pictures and stuff. I heard that sometimes the directors and the cinematographers go on those location recce's as well. Is that a separate recce? Is that does it happen later? What sort of the timeline would involve those people?
Yeah, we as locations, we would go off, find them, then we would come back with photographs, and then we'd normally show them to the designer and the director, and then discuss it. And if there is a DOP that is then already on the shoot, if we went to look at the location, they would come with us.
Yes, gotcha. And are they generally productive?
Because it's always important to have their input, even though, in locations, where north, south, west and east is, and whether it's going to be backlit or whatever. I mean, I can say, for example, I did some of the Harry Potter films. Yeah. And we had where we did Dobby's, where we buried Dobby on the beach at Pembrokeshire.
Yeah.
Right. The designer, we went round nearly every beach in England looking. And the reason that was chosen was because of lighting, because of its position and the fact that, it was on the west coast and where it was, its juxtaposition. It was always backlit, so you could film all day long.
Wow. Okay. So that's a big thing, because I hadn't really thought about, I just assumed that, that's when the cinematographer almost comes in and almost ruins the day as they start sort of like spinning off about this, that, and like, oh, you can't get the lights there, or like, oh, that's going to be like tough. But you guys are already sort of on top of that. You're already thinking about that as part of the process.
Well, you're already thinking about it, but it doesn't always work in your favor. But you would ask nicely, could we make this work? Because this is good.
Yeah.
And it's always about collaboration, always.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. So, on that first sort of recce, you're going around. I mean, it sounds like a tough life having to go to every beach in the UK. It sounds like a physical, philosophical challenge. I joke. I mean, that sounds amazing. How many people are going on that recce with you at that point?
There would be about 3 people or 4 people initially, because initially you go on your own and take photographs, then you'd come back and then they'd look at it. And again, for lighting purposes, you'd always have, which is north, south, west and east, because the designer is also, looking at lighting too. Normally you go off with the designer and have a look at them all, and then they would pick what they liked best, and then you would go with your director and DOP as a small group. And then slowly over the weeks, the group gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until the location is chosen. And then you do what you all know as a technical recce, which is done, at the beginning of the film before, so that you know what is required and what you will need on that location.
Gotcha. I was thinking even just like the structure of the team within locations, like obviously it's your title on a lot of things. Is it locations manager? Is it supervising location manager? What are the role titles? And like,
it's a supervising location manager, but I just always call myself a location manager, to be honest with you.
Saves a few
everybody
syllables.
Runs their department differently, but I like to be in at the beginning. I like doing the scouting. I like finding. And then, you bring in a team and they will look after that location. And then another team will look after that location and you oversee it. And, and you will go in and troubleshoot if you have to. And you will help look at it and say, well, I think this would be better. Or if there's someone to talk to, I would probably go and talk to them and then do the deals, because then you have to do all the legal side of it. And, you go through contracts and things like that.
So what are the sort of legal sides of it that you mentioned? Because I know you have to get a release form, right? You have to get a form saying we can use the images of this location. Is that sort of the long and short of it? But it just is the bigger the project, the more complicated that process is, or how does it work?
I mean, at the end of the day, what you want in the contract is to say that, you have the right to use whatever you have filmed, and it can go in that particular name of that film.
Gotcha.
Right. And then also there is then very complicated things, which is stating out exactly what you intend to do, how many hours you're going to be there, how many days, this is the cost, breaking down the cost of the location. And then, if there are certain things on different locations that need to be taken care of, like paintings that need to be removed, everything will go into the contract.
Interesting. Okay, gotcha. So the moment you get to like a stately home, I imagine that's a more complicated contract than sort of like a farmer's field. Although farmer's field, they might say, don't mess with the crops, I guess. So might be a few pages on that.
Yeah, it is, yes. And I mean, yes, with a stately home, you go into more detail because you say exactly what you're going to see, that you won't be putting lighting near any of the, sort of oil paintings. You won't be doing this. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do.
I see. Okay, gotcha. So
it is a very broad spectrum to the job. Do you know what I mean? There is a very much a beginning, a middle, and an end. The other thing is you have a budget. And although you're supposed to be in charge of the budget, we have coordinator who is the person who does the budget because they know how to do a spreadsheet, whereas I'm not really very good at that, but I'm very good at inputting and outputting, but not doing it. Yes.
I see. Oh yeah, I mean Excel isn't for me, to be honest, as either. So this coordinator, are they part, or are they like they're
very, very. They're the center core of our team, really.
Okay, got it. So they are part of your team. Office. It's not like a separate production coordinator that is then getting involved with your guys' stuff. Okay, amazing. So could you talk through those different roles? Sorry. Yeah.
Well, it starts with me, and then it would be our location managers, who are the ones out in the wild, so to speak, looking after the locations. And they will have a team with them of an assistant location and a location assistant, depending on how big the location is. And then we have a unit manager who looks after the truck, and then, who hires all the things that we need to be on location, like heaters, marquees, and trackway, and things like that. And then in the office, we would normally have our coordinator and assistant coordinator, and they all are always in the office, and they're the linchpin to all those different people. So they would call in, they would do the purchase orders, they make sure people get paid, they make sure, that what we're asking for is what will be done, and they liaise all the time over what we're doing. They keep the calendar, etc.
I see. So it sounds like lots of different roles that are maybe suited for like different kinds of people. All right. I guess you don't really want the office team to be looking out the window, longing to be out on the field as much. But I know there's lots of people that enjoy that part of the process, right?
That's right. And then, we've got our lovely drivers, 4x4 drivers, who, take stuff from A to B and move things around and put up signs and do all sorts of things. There's all sorts of, it's a very varied job.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You start off clean and you end up dirty, basically, in a muddy field, but yeah. Who ends up the dirtiest on set? Is it you guys, or is there any other departments that give you a run for your money? I think our unit team are the ones that end up dirtiest, because they're the ones putting trackway down and stuff. But location, generally in locations, we all muck in. Yeah, I see. Whereas by the time everyone else turns up, there's already the marquees are already up, the red carpets rolled for the actors. That's it. It's like a miracle. Suddenly this all appears. I think most people who come onto the set think it's been there forever, but it hasn't. It's taken, weeks of organisation by people and to set that all up, to get all those people paid, to make sure they're where they should be. I mean, we have to do detailed maps of how to get to places and things like that. That's what an assistant location manager would do. Okay, wow. What sort of... I've got so many questions for all these things that we're sort of getting into. The in terms of you said like maps of getting to places. What's sort of the weirdest, most remote places you've sort of ended up for projects, would you say? And that was maybe the most challenging to guide people towards and navigate a crew to. Well, the thing is, most people know a postcode. Okay. right?
Yeah.
And they'll go to a postcode. Well, that doesn't really work in our department because there's normally not a house or something, so there's no postcode. So we use a lot what's 3 words.
Gotcha,
But
yes.
that doesn't always work. So we have to do a detailed map and everything as well.
Gotcha. Well, what sort of have you, I don't know, ended up in the forests of Tanzania? I don't know, what sort of are the wildest places you've been
right.
to?
No, I mean, I'm lucky in the job I've done. I've been all over. I've been in China, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, all those places, and Brazil, and but mainly I spent most of my time in the UK.
Gotcha. Which of those places did you enjoy, or were the most challenging? Like, because Thailand sounds amazing to sort of film in and stuff, but I imagine that can also you get surprise weather in Thailand, can't you? I think that must add challenges.
Well, Thailand's is actually quite civilized. I mean, it was quite challenging China because we weren't in the cities.
Okay.
So it's so very different. Getting from A to B and going through all the different channels. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
And the food.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, let's just break down, like, what are the things that you're having to put in place? I know you mentioned that by the time the crew gets there, it sort of looks like it's always been this way, and you've created this sort of almost civilization for a location that I imagine can be, sometimes you must only be there for a few days. And so it's like so much work goes into just setting that up for a few days. But for you, it's been months.
Well, it is. It is. It's setting it all up because there are many rules and regulations nowadays, and especially working with children. And, I've done a lot of work with, children because they have to have separate, a honey wagon, which is a loo.
Yes.
We call it a honey wagon. So they all have to be separate. So with them comes chaperones. So there's a lot more people than you would think would go with all of that. They have to have rooms for, teaching in. They have to have classrooms. Even if it's for 2 days, that has to be available. And then you've got the crew itself, and, they would eat in a marquee. So you liaise, our unit manager will liaise with the crew coming and say, you're going to be parking here. What do you need electrically? What do you need for this? What do you need for that?
Yeah.
And, with makeup, they draw a lot of electricity with all their curling tongs and everything. So you have to make sure that there is enough to do all of that.
Yeah.
And enough lighting and enough heating. And that it's a safe environment, so it's not slippy, that there are, everything is in place for that. And that, those doing, those that are cooking everything, they've got everything they need and all the power they need to put the fridges on and everything like that. And then there's that's just the back end of it. Then you've got to make sure that on the other end of it, where they're shooting, all the different cranes and all the different lighting equipment and everything they need is in place and not in shot for the first shot, because you move things around.
Yeah. Wow.
And then, obviously, if you're shooting in the winter as well, you've got plenty of lighting.
Yes.
At the end of the day, so people can see where they're going and things like that.
Wow, yeah. It's like the lights for not even for filming with, they're just for making sure people can get to where they need to go. Wow, that's so... I mean, for something like, let's say, like the last couple of like Harry Potter films, how big of a team does that swell up to when you've got like a remote location like that and you've got to have all those things in place? Yeah,
well, you bring people in on dailies.
Gotcha.
As well.
Okay.
And we use marshals to help us to get things from A to B and to be there to help, I don't know. I have a core team of about 6 people, which
Gotcha.
include location managers, and then we build on that depending on where we're going and which part of the country, because we would try and use local people wherever we can, wherever we go.
Okay.
We'd have our core team because they are the continuity between everything.
Yeah.
But then when we get to various places, we would then try and use people who are local and know the area to then bolster up that team.
I see. And is that like a cost-benefit analysis in the sense that if you can get them local, you don't have to worry about accommodation and stuff like that?
Oh, it never works like that,
Okay.
because even though they might come from Yorkshire, they could live in Leeds, but you're filming in North Yorkshire, which is 2 hours away.
Okay.
So, but at least they know the area.
Yes, gotcha. So I guess there's for sort of looking for team members that are going to fill in sort of the gaps in the knowledge, and it's sort of recognizing that,
Yeah.
we know how to do locations for films, but we don't know this particular area very well. So always looking to sort of find people to be temporarily part of the team that do know the area better. That does just sound sort of super useful. Have you always done it that way, or is that something you sort of discovered during your career?
No, I've nearly always done it that way. And you also try to use people locally for, like, for example, we are also look after security. So we have a security team, and there's a core team of them. But when we go away on location, they will bring in security that are local as well.
Gotcha.
But that has always happened, really, because, yeah.
I see. So what sort of security, because they're guarding like the cameras and all just the things that are left on site?
Yes, but they're also showing people where to go. So, when people, they're coming in, they don't know where they're coming to, and they're showing them where to park, and they park them up so that we go in sequence, so that, it's not just all over the place. There's an order to it.
Yeah.
And they help people to know where they're going, and they will also check, because we do get a lot of press interested. And so they will be looking out for that, and they help us. They put up umbrellas and things like that, so that people can't sneak photographs without us knowing.
Yeah, I remember seeing some photos from, I think it was like The Force Awakens, sort of the reboot of Star Wars, or the Star Wars sequel rather. And I remember there's some white screens trying to like shield the set, but then I think it was like drone footage, so it just looked over it to see the Millennium Falcon. I imagine that just must be so much of a harder job these days on those sort of like high interest productions.
Well, it is, because it has changed, and now we've got these people called social auditors. Have you heard of these?
No. What's a social auditor?
This has happened. But this happened to us on the last thing I was doing, where they come with cameras on, and they try and rile up your security. They try and provoke them, and then they take the film, and then they say, "Oh, look at what these awful people did," But it's totally out of context.
Wow!
And they do it on purpose. And it's really difficult.
That's mad. What is? I mean.
I know. I've never seen anything like it.
And I guess they're doing it to create social media videos, like viral videos.
They're doing it to create, a reaction.
Yeah. Oh man! And is that common now on big productions? I imagine not so much on small productions.
Well, this happened just this last year. That's the first time I'd ever come across it.
But
So
it's already got a name and it is already like a thing.
Yeah,
it's happening.
Yeah, and they're called social auditors.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And then they'll cut out the bit where they sort of shout and swear.
Oh, they cut out those bits. But they just put the sort of alarming bit in, and everyone thinks, oh wow, but they've not seen how they've got to that point or whatever, it's and they get a lot of money for it, because the adverts go on it and people watch it, and that, it's
I hadn't even thought. I was just thinking of like the clout or just the views for views' sake, but they're obviously being rewarded for it in a way because I always thought, I always don't like the look of how the press seem to operate in America, where they're very sort of invasive and in your face, but obviously they get paid quite handsomely for getting those photos.
Exactly. And so, you have to know how to handle those people.
How do you handle those people? What is the Sue Quinn guide?
You just keep calm. You just keep calm. And you just smile. I mean, what more can you do? And I mean, they have certain rights. There are certain places they can take photographs from. So you have to know the law.
I see. So what are the other laws, like as in once you've set up your areas, is it then trespassing for them to enter that location? I'm thinking even back to, the beach you mentioned, which is trickier because it's obviously assumably a public
because
space.
The beach is a public space. But, it is also owned by the National Trust, and the National Trust have a no drone policy, et cetera, not for filming, but for, press.
Yes.
So there are various things you can do and you can prosecute.
Okay.
But there is sometimes you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, I mean...
And then when that happens, we would talk to our publicity and say it's the best thing to do is just give them a photograph.
Oh, really? Or just give them one sort of... I see.
So that they all have it, so it's not exclusive, so they're...
I see, okay, gotcha. It's just sort of to counteract, to diminish what they could potentially get. Would that send... Do you say that to their faces to get them to go home in a way? Like, we'll give you...
No.
You just put one out there?
No.
I see. Mm-hmm. It's such an interesting, it's like the other side of filming, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But I mean, that is what's great and why I love locations, because we deal with everything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you also deal with every department because you need to know what their needs are when they come to film, and you have to talk about what they want to do and what they need, etc. So that's you cover every field.
Wow, yeah. So was that what got you into? I know you mentioned that you like traveling around to the location still, and you mentioned that some location managers don't do that so much. Was it the desire to travel that got you into it, or was it the desire to make films that got you into it?
Well, no, I love making films and I love being creative. But I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I was at school, my careers advisor could advise either going into medicine, law, or teaching. Okay. There was no such thing as a film location manager. Or I know, and even film and theatre was considered, not,
Yeah.
But however, I think, I came across it quite by accident, really. But I think also the reason why I think I do what I do is because my father many years ago lost his sight.
Okay.
And it started to diminish. So he was never one to have a white stick. So he would always be on my arm.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, describe something to me. And then I would describe things to him.
Wow.
And he would then say, but you've missed something. And I'd go, what? And he'd say, well, I can hear that there's something going on over there. And then I'd look and it's something I'd missed.
Wow.
So he kind of taught me to look at things in a very different way.
Yeah.
And to look at the detail and to look beyond what you think you can see.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And so it became natural for me just to look at things and see things that other people probably didn't.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I by accident worked on a film, and I was asked, could I find some locations for something, very small, low budget thing, and I did, and then I've never looked back.
Yeah.
From then on, because I've never wanted to do anything other than locations.
Yeah.
So I haven't wanted to produce or do anything like that. Yeah. And the designers or the directors are the people that ask for you.
Yes.
And so I've always had quite good relationships with them.
I was going to say, so it was starting out like if someone wanted to get into locations, is it worth just doing it and building relationships with directors? Is it worth
Yeah.
But joining like the bigger productions, obviously, I can only imagine it would be so useful to learn
I
from
think
people like
nowadays
yourself.
you have to learn it, and I think people start off by being a marshal, and I know that there's websites where you go on and be a marshal, and marshals come in on dailies and they help with locations, and then they get a rapport with somebody in the location department, and then they'll get moved up to a location assistant, and then that is one way in. Sometimes, there are people who just start off straight away because they're brilliant at photography and they take wonderful pictures for scouting and that sort of thing. And then there are other ways in. I know at Warner Brothers, for example, they have something called Crew HQ.
Okay.
And a lot of people sign up on that, and then they are given different jobs to do, on different productions.
Wow, that's amazing. They're super useful resources, to be honest. And I imagine for most of these people need to be over the age of 18 to sign up to those.
Yes.
But then once they are, they can sign up and try and get those daily roles, as you're saying.
That's right.
And you mentioned as well, people that are good at photography do quite well at it. Is obviously, I assume, because you're taking those photos to then show to those other departments and everything. Were you always interested in photography as well, or?
Oh yeah, no, I was always interested in photography. I was always interested in art. That was my subject. So yeah. But you learn that, taking a photograph for a location is very different from taking a beautiful photograph.
Sure. Are you trying to do like wider angle photographs to show more, or does that distort it?
Because you are, you know what the scene is.
Yeah.
You know what they're doing. So you would take photographs that show that at its best. But then you would also show what's either side and in front and behind.
Yes, I see. Do you use like 360-degree technology these days where, you can get those cameras, can't you, that will shoot like a...
Oh, yeah, you can. But no, I don't. I'm very old-fashioned. I just use an old-fashioned Leica. A Leica, yeah. But, I mean, we all have different ones. I've got a Leica. The person who works with me loves Sony. And everybody else loves Olympic. Everybody has their own thing that they love. But I've always had a Leica camera.
Nice. Is that shoot on film or digital?
I would film. I'm down. For the last sort of 10 years, I've been digital. Yeah. But prior to that, I was film. And you obviously got really nice photographs.
Yeah, I bet. Like that must have been so hard to sort of like do that transition, because I know digital cameras are now really good, but there was a real texture to film. But I imagine now just the pace of productions, having the immediacy of digital is just hard to challenge.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And then, you also don't have to have the most beautiful photograph. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you're not showing it for that. Yeah. Those people will then take it and make it beautiful. You're just trying to say, look, it could work here.
And when you take those photos, is it like, okay, this is it from all sides? Or are you suggesting angles? Are you like, if you shoot it actually from this particular vantage point, then this is the backdrop?
You do both.
You do both. Okay, gotcha.
You do both.
And is that, so you do your matter-of-fact photos, and then you sort of, that must be so fun, because obviously you're really getting to immerse yourself in the cinematography side of the filmmaking process. Yeah,
but I would never say I'm a cinematographer at all, but I would just say it looks really nice from here.
Yes, gotcha.
That's all. But I mean, that's it. Yeah.
Have you ever been surprised, like when you've seen a location, it looks good, you're like, okay, this is going to be cool for a film. But then when you see the finished film, how the scene looks, I mean, I say the finished film, do you ever get to see, I imagine you get to see the monitor on set sometimes?
Yeah.
Do you ever get surprised by how it's looking, how they're shooting something, or what they've managed to do with it? Yeah.
Always, because, you're not seeing it when they've put Atmos and they've dressed it and they've done this and they've done that. And so, as I say, it's all about collaboration, because everybody else brings something to the table.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah. I was going to say as well, obviously you're working on a location months in advance of filming there, potentially. What happens when you've got sort of multiple locations? Does that mean And where are you? Do you stay with where the filming is happening, or are you ahead
always.
of the next one? Okay, you're with the filming.
What I'll do is I'll be where they're filming, and then maybe at the end of the day, I'll go on to the next stage to see if everything's set up for the next day. When we're going one after the other. Yes,
gotcha.
I'm always where they're filming.
I see. That must be a long day for those transitions.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Yeah.
I imagine it's one of those things, like, I suppose, with a lot of roles in film, where would you say you have to really love it, because there are those days that are challenging.
There are, and then it makes up for it in other ways, other times.
Yes. Yeah.
It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Yeah, you do work long hours.
Yeah.
You're the first one in and the last one out, basically.
Yeah. Do you ever try and transition that with your team? So, like, some of them do morning and some of them do afternoon. But I guess
I do. When we're somewhere for a long time and it's relentless, then we do.
Yeah. I see it.
And then if somebody's had a really hard week, then the following week you give them those to do, and then the other ones do that. Yeah, we do try and do that.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, that sounds cool. And then, but do you feel responsible though to be there for then longer than everyone? Is that?
Yeah. Of course you do.
Yeah. Because you just want everything to go obviously as well as possible. Can you tell me about one of the most challenging shoots you've had, or one of the most challenging locations? Does anything jump to mind as like something was particularly?
No, because they're all a challenge.
Give me the easy ones. That's what you're thinking.
No, I mean, the challenge is the weather sometimes.
Gotcha. Okay. Was the Edge of Tomorrow, for instance, that was. Looks like because I remember seeing that film. I can't remember if it's raining much in that film, but I know it's loads of mud and trenches because it's the whole battlefield, isn't there? That they're in. There's a lot of the film set in that whole battlefield. How was that location?
Oh no, that was fine. I mean, the big location was landing the helicopter in Trafalgar Square.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, because I heard that as well. Like, there's certain big landmarks around London that apparently are very hard to close down for any kind of filming. I remember watching a behind the scenes of, I think it was Deathly Hallows Part 1, and it was a big deal getting, what's it called? Piccadilly Circus.
Piccadilly Circus, yeah.
Yeah, how was there had to be like some negotiation with the Mayor of London or whichever office?
Well, yes, because the Mayor's office owns Trafalgar Square. So, but then Westminster Council own bits of it, and then you've got the Canadian Embassy, the South African Embassy, and then you've got the National Gallery.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, well, for example, at Trafalgar Square, also, you're flying a helicopter, which doesn't normally happen over central London unless it's RAF.
Yeah.
Because they normally just follow the river.
See.
Because if it crashed, it would crash into the river and not into the houses. So and because you've got all those state buildings all the way down there, there were an awful lot of permissions that had to be got to do that.
Yeah.
And many meetings.
You should check the flight path, what the flight path's going to be, and then is it like everything goes over? You have to speak to all those places.
Yes, and especially because we did it on a Sunday, so you had to speak, to Westminster Abbey to say, "I'm sorry, we'll interrupt your service," and this and that. There's lots of different people you have to speak to.
Yeah.
And then we had to reroute. I think it was about 72 buses that go around Trafalgar Square.
Wow, because you needed all the roads around it as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Closed off. Well, you close it off because the helicopter has to be so many distances. It's all health and safety.
Yeah. What about all the shops and stuff? Do they stay open?
They're
closed.
We had to close all of those, but that's again what we do.
That sounds, one, so time consuming, and that also just sounds so expensive as well.
Yeah.
Because do you have to do that thing where like you have to almost compensate the shop for money, for loss of earnings and stuff, right?
Yeah, I know. And then, because you have to do due diligence, you have to ask them to show you what they would have earned on a Sunday. And of course, nobody wants to do that, because, but there's all sorts of things that you have to comply with to do all those sorts of things.
Is that the power of Sue Quinn? Is that the power of Tom Cruise? Or is it the power of like a big Hollywood studio? Like, how do you get to do that on, say, that production and not others? Because I know, or is it just some films will prioritize the budget for that and others don't?
A bit of both, really. Nice. I mean, I have been around a long time, so I do know quite a few people. Yeah. So, and I'm lucky that people will listen. But then I have a great team as well that, will also help enormously, and they know what they're doing and they know how to do it.
I see. So are you on first name terms with Westminster Abbey now, would you say, or?
Oh, well, not now. I mean, that was a while ago now, but, you do talk to quite a few people and they do know you.
Yeah.
And they know that you'll do what you say, so they'll, let you.
And with a location like that, obviously that's in the city. So do you have to bring all the honey wagons still, or are you?
Oh yeah.
Or you don't sort of speak to the local McDonald's and just be like, "Can we just use your toilet for the day?" Or?
Oh, you do. Well, mainly you would try and find an empty building where you would set up your makeup and hair, and where your extras would go and your essays and things. You would try and find a building which is easier than putting a marquee up somewhere in London, obviously. And then you've got to find all the parking, etc. And I mean, there's such a fight nowadays because there's so many crews in London and there's so little parking space. I mean, you can hardly park a Mini anywhere near there, never mind, a unit of 200 or 300 people.
Yeah.
So you have to do all of that. And, the more advanced warning you have, the easier it is because you can try to book things. But things always change. The week before, it's like, oh, we can't do it now because of so-and-so. Can you move it?
Really? Gotcha. And that's generally the production saying that? It's not the actual location?
Yeah. No. It's due to something that's happened, or whatever. Yeah. So you always, it's a movable feast. You always have to be moving.
Yeah. The what was it? How is it quite easy or hard to find sort of like an empty building for all those other departments? Is that easier than you'd think in London, or is it harder than it sounds?
It's harder because nobody really wants to know.
Sure.
Because it means legalities, it means contracts and things like that, and some people just can't be bothered to do all of that.
Yeah.
So you have to persuade them it's worth their while.
I see. And do you start with a low ball? So are you like, okay, I'll give you a $5 and a packet of crisps, or do you? Or do you go in hard? Like, do you go in sort of strongly to begin with, just saying, just we can make this worth your while? Like what?
Yeah, no, I always ask what would they be out of pocket by?
Okay.
Really?
Yes. Okay. Good.
Because everywhere's different.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really nice way of sort of doing that, I think. Okay, very cool.
And then you'd pay for the staff to come in, you'd have to pay for people to come in and that sort of thing. So you deal with all of that too.
Yeah. So obviously I'm sort of building up this image of sort of the difference between being sort of in the remote areas where you've got to bring almost more stuff, but then there's more things you've got to close down and more people you've got to make happy when you're in sort of a city. What are the other sort of types of locations? Obviously, you've got those the wildernessy ones. You've got the city based ones. Are towns and smaller towns and villages different to that?
No, because we have had to close off villages in the past and also towns, and it's always difficult because you've always got people with different ideas.
Yes.
And they think that you should be doing this, and they think that you've got loads of money. Well, you don't. You have a budget, and they fail to see that. Oh, well, you make lots of money, but so we, as a council, we want this or we want that, or and you have to go in and negotiate, and you have to explain to them it's not like that.
Yes, yeah.
But this is what might be able to happen for you. When we finished filming, you could use the publicity to, publicize that we were here, and this, sometimes that's an advantage and sometimes that's a disadvantage. It just depends on where.
Yeah, because I suppose because you've worked on films of different sort of budget scales over your career and stuff. Is it a different type of conversation you're having? If it's an indie, do you get people that are more likely to just do it because it's cool, or like participate because it's cool?
Yeah, because they want to be part of it. So you try and make them feel part of it, and also you say, well, we couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and Downing Street in because I know Love Actually.
Yes.
Where's that filmed?
That was done at the studio. It's very clever. What they did was they built on the outside of a studio, so it looked as though you were going inside from the outside.
Wow. So,
but because we were there because we needed it for a long time, you couldn't film at 10 Downing Street. Put it that way.
Yeah. It's not even like... Do you ever get to go just to take reference photos?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can sort of go, you just can't film there.
Oh.
I see. Okay. Very cool. What's it like going into Downing Street? Because a lot of people haven't been and never get to go,
It's not as big as you think it is.
Interesting.
But it's a house.
Yes.
But I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in there now. But yeah.
I've been in number 11, which I assume they're fairly
it's the
similar.
Exchequers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how different it gets when you get into number 10.
Not really. I mean, it's all much for oneness, and it depends who's been in there because they decorate in their own way.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah. It felt like a time capsule when I was in number 11.
Yeah.
Obviously I didn't see 10, but yeah, it just felt like it was of an era, and everyone was it was very sort of classical and sort of hadn't been updated for a little while, and stuff. What are sort of the other sort of big locations? Do you have any favorite locations you worked on for various reasons, either because they were challenging? I feel like you like the challenge, so that might be a reason.
I always love filming at the big houses because what I've loved is, I mean, in my career, I've been very lucky enough to go to most of our beautiful, houses. And what I love is looking at the paintings, and you work out, so-and-so, I know where she came from, and she married him, and he married her, and, you make up a whole history of our country from it. I love the history.
Yeah. Is that sort of like the National Trust type location?
National Trust and privately owned, yes.
A lot of the locations in sort of period films and stuff, are they often National Trust type?
Yes, quite a lot of them are, but it's not always that easy to film.
That's what I was wondering, because I know a lot of film locations are privately owned places, right? That are sort of, I know there's location websites and stuff like that.
Yes, there are now. There's lots of location websites now.
Do you guys look through those, or are you guys sort of working on like a different level where you go out and find your own locations? Do you know what I mean? Or?
Well, depending on what it is, we'll look at that to see if there's any empty schools or empty this or empty that, because they would know. So we have a look to see what's on there, yes. But when it comes to the big houses, I mean, there's so many books. I mean, I always go back to reference books, but I mean, and obviously now, with the internet, it's amazing what you can find out. But I mean, when I first started, we didn't have internet.
Sure.
So I just had lots and lots of reference books.
Amazing. Could you recommend? Because I was going to ask. My next question was literally because you mentioned at the start of the this episode talking about how it's changed over the years. Just before we sort of go into sort of how it has, I wondered: are there any reference books or internet resources that you could recommend to people to listen to, or to read or to visit rather?
Not really. I mean, to me, I just go and visit anything that looks interesting.
Nice.
You just never know when you might need it.
Yeah. Do you do that on your days off? Are you sort of looking for nice places?
Yeah, I do. I can never stop.
Yeah.
I can never stop because I go, oh, wow, I wish I'd known that was there, And I have to say, the wonderful thing is, even at the great age I am now and everything I've done, I never stop finding things.
That's amazing.
There's always something. I thought, oh, gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Is that what you need, do you think, to succeed in locations, is a natural curiosity?
Well, I think you've got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, I think, yes, you have to have a natural curiosity and you have to like looking at places and, just generally be interested and interested in history, I think, too. But, not everything that you do is historical, but, even going back 20 years doing period of that nature, it's interesting how much has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first time I felt old. Actually, was when sort of like 90s films were sort of being made as period films. Because I grew up and there was loads of 80s films, or films set in the 80s.
I know, because at the moment on what we're doing quite a lot of 90s, 80s and 90s, and you think, oh my God, it looks so different.
Yeah. I guess when you've got filmmakers as well that are sort of starting to get their stuff made, but they were born in the 90s, then you sort of get their stories from the 90s, right? So it's almost like, in another 10, 15 years, then there'll be the noughties or early 2010s as period films, which will be interesting. The skinny jeans will be back.
Oh God.
Amazing. So how has it changed, would you say, the journey? Obviously, I know you mentioned no internet at the start and everything. But how else has the job changed, would you say?
Well, the thing is, resources are much more there. There's so much more because you've got an internet, and there's so much more out there, and people are much more aware of filming because there's been so much done over the last 20 years now in this country. So, the people have an understanding of it. I mean,
I see. And in terms of like the way you communicate and interact with the other departments, has that pretty much stayed true? Because it's still the same filmmaking process. It's more just the tech.
Yes, it's just that the technology is different, and things have moved on. People need different things, and and certain things that were acceptable, way back then are not acceptable now.
Sure. I wondered if you can sort of just...
And also, we now try to be as green as we possibly can.
Yes.
Which is always a challenge on location.
Yes. Of course, yeah. So that's obviously a much like a mindset shift, or just greater awareness, maybe is a better way of putting it.
And for example, our honey wagons are solar powered now.
Amazing.
Or, things like that. And we have battery packs rather than generators, but we still have to have them as backup because, some of them aren't always as good as you want them to be. So you have to make sure, but you try very hard to be as green as you can, and with the rubbish collection and things like that.
Yeah. We had someone on actually before talking about the Green Rider campaign and sort of encouraging sort of higher profile actors to sort of put in their contract requests green requests, basically, to try and help sort of incentivize and speed up that process of making filmmaking more green.
You try, and wherever you can do it, you do it.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not always possible.
Yes.
But it's getting better and better. You learn more and more as you go on.
Sure, yeah. I heard that it's sort of food waste is one of the biggest things on sets.
Yeah, but they deal with that because the food waste goes into one thing. We have a different collection.
Amazing. Gotcha. Okay.
Whereas before everything used to just go in one thing, it doesn't anymore.
Yeah. I'm with you. Okay, well, just before we have two questions that we always ask every guest, but just before we do that, I didn't know if you could sort of just finish fleshing out this image of who is sort of an ideal person to go into location. So we've got some young people, listening to this thinking, ooh, maybe this is for me. Obviously, we know that maybe being good at photography or practicing photography skills might be helpful, even though it's a different kind of photography. Being curious and wanting to explore places is helpful. Would you say wanting to walk a lot is helpful because you do a lot of walking in?
Yes, I think you have to walk. You have to have it. Going and just going that little bit further and looking.
Yeah.
I think you have to be curious. I think you also have to like people, and you have to like talking to people because you do have to listen an awful lot in the job.
Yes.
Yeah. And just have an inquiring mind, really. And being able to interpret what somebody means.
Yes.
Because a director might ask you something, but you have to interpret what they really want.
Yes.
As do you with your design. Designers are different because they're very visual.
Yeah. Do you have a cheat sheet? Like, the director said it needs to be more wow, and then you have like a translation book that says...
Usually if a director says that, it needs to be a bit more wow, means they really don't know what they're looking for. And they're expecting you to come up with something, or the designer to come up with something, you know, that then they'll go, oh yeah, that's what I mean.
Does that happen often?
Yeah.
So I direct as well, right? And I always feel like I need to have answers or at least suggestions, but it's nice hearing that maybe on the bigger scale productions.
Yeah, no, but I mean, they do know what they want, but they can't often explain what it is.
Yeah. And also, you know, some of these projects are so big that having those answers for everything is impossible. You know?
I know, and they're not concentrating on the bit you're asking them about. You know, they're more, you know, they're thinking about their casting or something else.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's... Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, then the final two questions that we always ask everyone is, what were you up to during your teenage years that, whether you realized it or not at the time, was maybe really helpful for what it is that you do now? And then what advice would you give to that teenage version of you?
Right. Well, I think during my teenage years, you know, I spent a lot of time with my father. Mm-hmm. So I did, you know, I was sort of describing things to him, but also we traveled a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I saw lots of different things. And, you know, I think I was curious and I liked history. I read a lot too. Mm. So that's what I was doing during my teenage years, and you know, also having a good time. Well, you know, you should do. Yeah. In your teenage years, I would say to teenagers looking back, just take every opportunity and embrace it. Yeah. Just try everything, and you know, just hold on to what it is you really want, because it will come. Yeah. But you have to work hard for it. It doesn't just land on your plate. Yeah. It's amazing. That's really beautiful advice, Sue. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience and some of these amazing anecdotes and stuff with the next generation. I know it's going to be super useful for them. So thank you. Okay, thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed that episode. I had an amazing time. Massive thank you to Sue Quinn. Do check out some of the resources she mentioned as well. I think it'll be really helpful once you're over the age of 18. Then you can get involved as well and join some. You can join in the filmmaking and start your career. So. And don't forget to send us your questions to podcast@youngfilmacademy.co.uk, and we'll see you on a future episode. Or maybe we'll see your question on a future episode.